Welcome. Happy to see so many of you here. We can now officially start with today's webinar. If you haven't yet, then feel free to add to the chat from which country or city you are joining us today. It would be interesting to know. But welcome once again. We will talk about candidate experience and recruitment automation today, and also how they are connected. My name is Marie. I know there are many of you who have already participated in our previous webinar, so I will make it short. I'm one of the co-founders of RecruitLab. It's a recruitment software with built-in tools for recruitment automation, video interviewing, applicant tracking, and so on. Why we started with RecruitLab, we believe that the hiring experience should be fulfilling and chaos-free for recruiters, candidates, and hiring managers. So that's the main reason why we started and why we're building this product for recruiters and hiring managers. To get the best overview, I would recommend you to book a free product tour with us. I just shared the link to the chat. We are happy to show you how you can save time and make your life easier. At the end of this webinar, I will also show 6 tasks or 6 things that every recruiter should automate, in my opinion. So you will learn more about RecruitLab. But before that, I'm happy to introduce our today's guest speakers. I have invited Helen and Sarah. Helen is coming from an agency, Sarah from an in-house recruiting team. They both have prepared the 15-minute presentation, and they will share their experience about candidate experience and recruitment automation as well. But we also have time for questions, so feel free to add your questions. There's a questions tab on the right, so use this opportunity. But let's get started with a short introduction round. So Helen and Sarah, maybe you can tell us a bit more about yourself and the company you are representing today. Sarah, let's start with you.
Yeah, hi, my name's Sarah Glanville. I am a talent engagement specialist here at Leyton. So I'll tell you a little bit about Leyton. Leyton are a global company. We're a tax consultancy. In the UK, we're the largest independently owned tax consultancy. And I promise you, it's a little bit more exciting than that initially sounds when you say tax consulting. We specialise in working with the most innovative companies from across the world, and we help them to access and leverage tax incentives that they can invest back into further innovation. My role here at Leyton, say I work as a talent engagement specialist, it's quite a multifaceted role. A large part is focused on candidate experience and improving the process for candidates that want to consider a role at Leyton. I also look at developing talent pipelines for us and really allowing us to attract, engage, work with the best candidates on the market, really, and try to attract them to want to work for Leyton and find the right role for Leyton. So yeah, that's my job and me.
Okay, really good. Thank you, Sarah. Helen.
So I have to agree here with Sarah here. I also have a background in tax consultancy and auditing and so on. It's not as boring as it might sound. So I really believe you're having fun what you're doing. My background, currently what I'm doing, I have my own agency. We are working mainly with recruitment, so helping companies to headhunt in situations where they have been looking for months and no results. So we go in, we help to make it more systematic, and this way we get the results. And also what we do with our agency, we offer trainings and we also offer interim HR solutions. So we help to build their processes either from scratch, or we go in, see what they have already in place and help them to find the places to improve. So this is my focus today. So I will be bringing in this agency side to the discussion here.
Yeah, really good. So we have both sides represented today. I know we have participants from both agencies and also from in-house recruiting teams, so it will be interesting for both of them. But tell me, in your opinion, what are the main misbeliefs or myths about candidate experience and recruitment automation? What are the first things that come to your mind? And to the participants today, you can also share your ideas or thoughts to the chat as well. Helen, we can start with you, for example.
Okay, for me, I think the biggest misbelief is that this is something that the recruiter is responsible of. Yes, to some extent, I see the recruiter as project manager for making sure we get the results done, but there's so many other people in the process as well, and every single one of them can either make or break the candidate experience with a really simple act or missing out on something. So I think this is something people need to understand more, and this needs a mindset change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you, Sarah. What's your opinion about it?
Yeah, so the biggest sort of myth in candidate experience and automation, I think, is that automation can be quite cold and unfeeling, and that you lose the human touch if you bring automation into your candidate experience and your recruitment journey. It can be, we've all received a rejection email system generated that, rejection from a job that you're just like, nobody put any thought, they've just clicked a button and probably not even looked at my CV properly. But my belief is that, automation can actually elevate your candidate experience. It can help you scale your recruitment processes and reach every candidate who's interested and who maybe applies for a job or is interested in working for you. If you use automation, but you come at it with that human feeling and trying to ingrain that in the processes that you're able to scale using automation, it can be a fantastic tool to help you reach everyone and offer a great experience to everyone who's interested in your company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I believe that all the recruiters know the importance of positive candidate experience, but still we have heard the stories and we see that so many companies actually fail to offer positive candidate experience. What do you think? What are the main reasons behind that? Sarah.
Yeah, I'll go. I don't think anybody goes forward trying to offer bad candidate experience. I think that there's some people who work within recruitment or maybe work within hiring teams who haven't really realised that there maybe has been a large shift in the power balance in the last few years, in terms of people aren't sitting waiting for job adverts to pop up for them to apply for it. People aren't maybe actively always looking for a new job. Quite often, recruitment agency or internal talent teams are out actively sourcing candidates. So when we bring candidates into the process, we've approached them. So we're almost having to sell the opportunity and sell the company to candidates, but maybe hiring teams and maybe some recruiters as well don't realise that we actually need to offer a really warm, consultative process through our recruitment journey to really engage candidates and to make them feel special and that they're wanted in the process. And we should be doing that anyway. But I think that if you're all in this company in Leyton and roles that I've had previously, it's all headhunting these days. Doesn't matter really the level of the role. Entry level or kind of C-suite executive, you're having to go find the right people, and everyone needs a little bit wooed, I think. So I think sometimes that's missed. And for somebody who's been approached and then sort of just put into quite a cold and unfeeling recruitment process, they probably do feel like that's a terrible experience because they're like, well, why do I want to work for you? You've approached me. So that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah. Helen, your team has been quite, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems that your team has been quite open to use technology and automation. And you have, as you have worked with different companies, what have been the main mistakes you have seen that companies or recruitment teams do when they start automating some sort of steps or actions in the recruitment process?
Mm-hmm. Well, I really am the kind of person, if something can be done by a machine or a software, please let it do the job. So I have more time for the value adding things and actually creating the connection with the candidate and this way doing the sales for the client. But what I see today, I think in most cases, it's a lack of knowledge or understanding. We somehow hear big words like there's artificial intelligence somewhere working with the candidates, and people don't really understand it, so they don't trust it. And when this is, I think, the biggest obstacle to actually start thinking about automation. But in many cases, it actually goes back also to the fact that we don't really have our processes set. So if you don't have a process, how can you know what steps within the process you can actually automate and make sure that this is done for you, not by you. So not knowing your process and simply going because there's a fire, we need someone, let's start going, and without a plan. So you don't really know then where to focus. And I think this process mindset should be something to focus on.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% that if you want to offer better candidate experience, you need to, this systematic approach is definitely the key. And with this, you don't only improve the candidate experience, but actually you also improve your own experience as a recruiter.
Exactly.
It makes your life easier.
Yeah.
And that this also is really, really important.
As you mentioned, we have been working with different clients, and all the clients usually have different solutions that they're using or different methods and processes and so on. And there are actually still people and clients who use terrible software. So our recruiters, every time they want to cry, like, why do I have to work with this one? Can we somehow help them out from the system or make them see that there are better solutions out there already today? So yeah, I think this, but it goes back again to the knowledge side. So do we know what's available there? If we don't know what we should or could be asking, then we don't ask. It's like going to the IT and what do you want? I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, the main reason why I invited you, Sarah and Helen, to speak today is that I noticed that you both have this kind of systematic approach to candidate experience and recruitment, project management. So let's start with you, Sarah. I will share your slides in a second. Yeah, so a short intro from my side as well. I met Sarah a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, and she was describing how she has worked for Leyton for almost 4 months. Yeah. And the company decided around 4 months ago that they will start focusing more on candidate experience. And instead of just sitting and waiting for better results, they created an action plan. And when Sarah shared with me the list of activities that they have already done within the first 4 months, then it was really, really impressed. So the floor is yours.
Thanks, Maria. Yes, so as I say, I joined Leyton about 4 months ago. It's not that candidate experience was not on the agenda here. The reason I am here is because candidate experience has absolutely been on the agenda. Leyton, we got a new head of talent acquisition, Nicola, I think about 7 or 8 months ago now, and within her plan was to bring in someone to do the job that I am now doing. I honestly think I've got the best job in the world. I get to do a lot of the amazing project stuff that runs in the background to help support our talent partners to find the very best people and bring them to Leyton. So it's been a very busy 4 months, bringing to life some of the incredible new candidate experience focused projects that I've been focusing on alongside some other stuff too, which has been brilliant. But candidate experience in particular, I've managed to whittle it down to a few key things that we'll chat about today. I think is hopefully going to give you guys some real practical examples of things that you can do to help influence your candidate experience. So let's get started. So where to start is always the very best place to start is the beginning, I suppose. So when I joined Leyton, I literally had to do this very activity, and that's understanding exactly where we were at that point in time when I joined, understand where you are now, and basically had to sort of get myself into the mindset that every single thing I did from that point was going to better the candidate experience at Leyton, and that is a win. So sometimes you might find that you have a lot to do, maybe you find that you have less to do, but just even the activity of putting some focus on candidate experience is improving the candidate experience. So I always like to think that in my head when I think about all the stuff I still want to achieve. We're in a much better place now, and we were, on day 1, day 10, now sort of 4 months in, every day we're able to make wins to improve the candidate experience. So if we go to the next slide, I'll talk through how to actually understand where you are. So I think it's really, really simple to get started to understand where you are now. Oh, did you lose me a second? I'm back. Yes, really simple to understand where you are now. Basically walk through your own candidate journey and search for pain points. So by that I mean literally grab your phone, try and apply to your job adverts on your phone, try to do it on your laptop, use different browsers. Is it easy? Are you asking for too much clunky information? Is there duplication of information? Really understand how that process flows as an applicant to the role. We don't get a lot of applicants, but we might do, and the simpler your process is, the more likely you are to have some good applicants come through because it's not difficult. Also have a look at your whole recruitment process. So once someone has applied, does everyone follow the same process, or does different hiring managers like to do different things? Do you have a standardized process? Are you using the tools that you have at your disposal to the best of, to make the best of it? So are you using your ATS well? Are you using any sort of assessment tools that you have access to? Is it an enjoyable process for candidates to go through? How quick are you able to get feedback from your hiring managers? How good are your hiring managers at interviewing? Just really look at every part of your candidate journey and try to understand if there's any pain points there. And, the next bit saying you don't have a mole. You might have a mountain and you might have a molehill. Either way, just start to climb it. Like, you might have a lot to do or you might not have much to do, but either way, just get started. Make a list of small, impactful wins and work at them first. And I always like to think as well, it's not rocket science to work out what candidates want. It's exactly how you would want to be treated. You've been a candidate before. Think back to your own experiences or think to how you would feel in the process that you currently have. And just make decisions that feel right for you, because chances are that would feel pretty right for a candidate as well. So that's how to understand where you are now. And next, I think we're going to chat about some of the key wins that we've had here at Leyton. So as I say, there's been lots of different things. I think I overwhelmed Maria when I sent her my list of things that we've worked through here at Leyton so far, but I thought I would talk about 4 of the key wins that we've done as a team since we've started. So we looked at standardizing our interview process. I'm also going to talk about the Circle Back initiative. We've implemented interview training for our hiring community, and we've also implemented a candidate experience survey. So I'll talk through first our standardizing our interview process. If you want to go to the next slide, thank you. So when I first started this, my team had sort of been working at trying to simplify the recruitment process and make it the same across the board, but we really shored that up and created all basically process maps that we've been able to share with the business on what our standard interview process looks like. So for every role across the business, we have a talent acquisition screening, which I've created our talent acquisition screening toolkit. So whether they're screened by our senior talent acquisition partner in London, Finn, or whether it's Danielle in Scotland here, or if I pick up any recruitment activities, we all follow the exact same talent acquisition screening toolkit. And that's a CV screen and a motivations conversation to understand really what's important to the candidate, because at the end of the day, it needs to be right for them. And that's where we're going to be able to give them a great candidate experience if we really get to know our candidates well. From there, we move on to our behavioural assessment. So we have currently been using and are using Arctic Shores. I believe that's set to change in the next financial year. for us. We're going to be moving on to a different behavioural assessment, but that's looking to assess key behaviours and values of candidates to see if they're potentially a good fit for Leyton. We then move on to our first stage interview, which is a competency-based and behavioural interview. We have a toolkit that our hiring managers complete on our ATS, and then we move on to final interview with our senior leadership, which is much more of a conversational and informal interview. So we keep this process super transparent, simple and fast. Our average time to hire is down to 17 days. I believe it was almost at 40 days or just over 40 days last year. So we've completely stripped that process back and made it as fast as possible. We've also made sure that our hiring managers know what this is, our candidates know what this is, and everyone knows exactly through the process where they are and what's coming next. And from day one, actually before day one, I've shared that with our talent community. This is what our process is. Before someone even applies, they know what the process is going to be like when they are considering a role at Leyton. And yeah, we completely standardized all our interviews, questions and scorecards so that every candidate is given the same experience, the same questions, to ensure that it's fair, equal, and there's opportunity for everyone to show their potential in the exact same way through our recruitment process. So next up we have the Circle Back initiative, which is something that me and the team are super happy that we've managed to sign up to. So I don't know if anyone's heard of this before. If you haven't, please do check it out. Circle Back is a completely free commitment to sign up to. It's basically saying that you are committing to respond to every single applicant, and you have to sign up. It's a fantastic guy called Steve. I can definitely share his details after the webinar today to reach out to him. He set up the Circle Back initiative because he had been made redundant through COVID and comes from a recruitment background, and found that he had a terrible experience with the number of people that were just not replying to him and not giving him any feedback. And he also went to work through volunteer his time through like an employability network, and found that the candidates he was speaking to on a voluntary basis through his period of redundancy were having the same thing, and people were becoming very dejected with no response from applications that they were applying for roles. In a really difficult time during COVID, there was just not a lot of communication. So he set up this initiative that employers can sign up to, basically committing to respond to every applicant. We display this on our job adverts. We display this on our communications to candidates at the bottom of every email that we send out. And every single candidate will get feedback from Leyton. So candidates who we have spoken to, whether that be at talent acquisition screen, first stage, final stage, they will have a phone call with feedback. So if you're on the talent acquisition screen and we're not progressing you, we will give me 2 seconds. I'm really sorry. I've actually got my dog at work today. We're dog friendly, guys, which is a great benefit, but she's making a little bit of noise in the background. I'm so sorry, I've lost my train of thought now. So we make sure that we respond to every applicant. If we talk to them at talent acquisition screen, we will let them know on the phone if we're not progressing them, or if they've met one of our hiring managers, we give them timely feedback, verbal feedback over the phone, to give them constructive feedback on where it didn't go quite well if they're being rejected at that point. Or if we're progressing them on, we'll give them their feedback also over the phone and progress them that way. The only people that get an automated email as the only contact is the people who do not get progressed to talent acquisition screen. And I've made those messages very, very friendly, very warm, very productive and constructive, to help candidates to understand why they haven't been progressed, if we aren't progressing them to talent acquisition screen. But we only think that's fair. Candidates spend a lot of time applying to roles, and we only think it's fair that we give them our time back to respond to them. And yes, it's completely free, guys. So if you've not done this already, you should absolutely do it because it's fantastic. And we broadcast that openly as well, which I think is a great employer branding piece. The next part that we'll chat about is interview training for our hiring community. So as I mentioned, we completely standardized our recruitment process. We needed to upskill our hiring managers to be able to deliver those standardized interviews that we were offering to candidates now as a standard process. And we also understood that a lot of our hiring managers are fantastic managers. They're absolutely brilliant, but they probably had never had any formal interview training before. And it's not always that people will ask for support. Some had actually asked for additional interview training, but some maybe had never thought to ask, never knew it was available to them. So Nicola and Danielle, my colleagues, have taken a lead on this, creating the interview skills workshop and delivering that to our leadership team. And we are ensuring that they understand how and why we interview, understanding candidate experience and how to improve it, to run effective interviews and uncover unconscious biases, and how to deduce them in interviews as well. So if we go into the next screen, I'll talk a little bit more in detail about what that looked like. So to basically give our leadership team and our hiring teams the skills to understand how and why we interview, basically allowing them to know how to use our new scorecards, but also how to set expectations during an interview. Also educating them that they need to sell Leyton and sell life at Leyton to candidates. What I kind of mentioned at the beginning, I think there was people within our hiring team who kind of thought, if they're coming into the process, they want to work here. And yeah, they're interested after a talent acquisition screen, but for, I would say, 95% of our candidates, I'm trying to work on it. I'm trying to build talent pipelines up for us. But right now, 95% of our candidates are probably sourced by our talent acquisition partners. So we need to make sure that we are selling Leyton through the process and ensuring that people will want to work for us, and that's also part of our hiring team's responsibility, is to ensure that we're not just assessing suitability, motivation and interest, but we're also selling Leyton to our candidates too. Also, ensuring that our hiring community really buy into the idea of candidate experience. So a lot of them have probably never thought of or heard of candidate experience before Nicola and Danielle have delivered this training to them. I really see candidate experience to be a unique selling point for Leyton. Speaking to candidates who have accepted roles this year, it's very, very unlikely in this market we speak to candidates who don't have other things on the table. They don't have other offers or interviews ongoing. And a lot of candidates that we have offered to and brought into the team since I've joined at Leyton have actually rejected other offers or dropped out of other processes. And part of the reason, on top of all the other great benefits that we've had, that something that has been mentioned to myself more than once, is that they've had a great time coming through the process. They've enjoyed working with the recruiter that they've worked with. The feedback's been great on that front. And also because the hiring team are so bought into the process, they're so bought into selling Leyton, people feel like they really know what it's like to work here before they even step in the door. And the people are what make Leyton so great. So they've really bought into that. And I think that candidate experience and getting our hiring team to buy into candidate experience is a unique selling point for us. And that's part of the reason people will want to join the business, which is great. The next two things that we focus on in our interview training is how to run effective interviews. So as I mentioned that a little bit earlier, giving our hiring community the skills and tools to interview well. So giving them access to the toolkits, showing them how to use our ATS, showing them how to grade answers and use the questions and the scorecards. And yeah, just train them on the processes that we're developing and putting into place. Also helping them to uncover unconscious biases. So for a lot of them, probably talking about this, they hadn't really thought about it before. Of course, it's unconscious bias, but it lives in all of us. And we're really trying to change the dialogue from a culture fit to being a culture add. So we keep saying culture add, not culture fit. We want people to come to Leyton and add to the culture here, not just fit into the team. We want them to come because they're the right people with the right skills and the right attitude. But it doesn't matter what football team you support or whether you wear shiny shoes. If you're the right person for the role, there's a seat for you here at Leyton. And the last thing that I want to talk about, our final kind of key win, is our candidate experience survey. So we are using benchmarks, which is a really cool candidate experience survey that gives us not only the opportunity to measure our own candidate experience, but to benchmark it against our like for like or similar companies in the UK. So you'll notice here, you can see here, this is actually unsuccessful after interview. Our sort of candidate experience score is 91.3. That's tiny on my screen, 91.3 compared to the benchmark. I love this particular measurement. You know, you look at maybe benchmarking people's experience once they've accepted a job, they're probably feeling great about the company. This particular measurement to me is fantastic. People who've wanted to share their experience and wanted to say, you know, that they have had a good experience or where we can go do better once they've actually been unsuccessful. We have quite a small sample size at the moment. We're actively trying to push this. It's quite new that we've integrated this into our process. But yeah, it's something that we're actively trying to measure ourselves, and you can't manage what you can't measure. So let's see how we're doing, and let's benchmark it against other companies that are similar to us. This kind of falls into one of my truest beliefs, is that any candidate, whether they have applied and not got further than that, or whether they've been accepted a role or offered a role and declined it, someone who joins the process might not be a fit now, but they may be a fit in the future. Every candidate is a possible member of the Leyton community, and you want to make sure that we're creating advocates through our candidate experience. So we want candidates to want to return to the process in later times. And a great example of this, when I first started, I ran a project a re-engagement campaign for candidates who were on our ATS, so going out and seeing how they were doing and what they were up to, and if they were still looking to consider a role at Leyton. From that activity, we've made 3 key hires since the beginning of the year. And so those are candidates that 18 months ago, 2 years ago, weren't a right fit for, or didn't want to come to Leyton for whatever reason. They've gone off, had more experience, more years in industry, and now they've come back into the process and they've accepted roles and started in the business, which I just think is fantastic. But yeah, that's something that we love to do, is obviously measure our candidate experience and actually benchmark it against our competitors or people who are like us. If you go to the final slide, or the next slide, Maria. So there's an alternative. Benchmarks is a paid service, so we pay for candidate experience surveys and to benchmark it against our competitors. Before we had invested in that, I had created our own candidate experience survey through Google Forms or Microsoft Forms. You can do it yourself. It's free. So I would say, if you're not doing this already, it's a really easy thing for you to do. It takes 10 minutes to set it up, and you're able to start surveying your candidates and get an idea of how your experience is going. And this is free, so you don't have to pay for it if you don't want to. The paid tools are obviously great for measuring maybe against others and stuff, but if you want to understand where your candidate experience is, you can do that. And yeah, and this is a wee quote from me. I don't know why I've quoted myself, but if you really want to know how your candidates feel in your process, you have to ask them, and ask all of them, not just the successful ones. So make sure that you're testing everyone's experience, and from application through to offer, that people are having a good experience with you, or if they're not, you can figure out what it is and you can change it. So yeah, I think that's me. Has anyone got any questions?
Thank you, Sarah. Really good that you mentioned measuring this candidate experience. I will come back to this topic at the end of the webinar as well, and show how to measure candidate net promoter score with RecruitLab as well. There are a couple of questions. For example, how did you train your talent acquisition team to be able to screen tech-related roles and not ask hiring managers to review?
So, okay, I'm a huge believer in the fact that your talent acquisition team are not necessarily technical, and they don't have to be. Okay, so your talent acquisition team, or the team here anyway, we assess. We look at CVs, look to understand people's reason for leaving roles, trying to understand what excites them, what motivates them, what it is that they're looking for, what environments do they like, what do they not like. So understanding reasons for leaving on a very high level, understanding technical competency and expertise. But if you're not technical, you're never going to get it 100%. But having maybe even a few key questions that your hiring managers will like to ask. So, for example, within our business development team, I know this is not technical, but within our business development team, our hiring managers will always want people to articulate their sales numbers. So we ask them to do it. And obviously we can only take what they say, but if they're able to articulate it to us and everything else seems right, their motivations are right, their experience looks good, and their reasons for leaving, which indicates what environments they enjoy and what they don't enjoy. If that all looks good, we'll sort of progress them to interview stage. But your first stage interview is your technical competency, and that's where your hiring managers are going to come into their own to be able to understand what it is they need to do the job. I've come from actually a tech recruitment background. I will hold my hands up and say I am not a technical person. I have no tech background myself, but have recruited in tech before. My advice for you there, if you think your talent acquisition team need to have a level of technical understanding and competency, sit them in the technical teams and get them to see what people are doing, and ask hiring managers or ask people on the floor what it is that they do and try and understand. I've sat in every team here at Leyton to absorb and soak in as much as I can, and that's where I think I've had success in terms of being able to understand what people are looking for. But don't set an expectation for your talent acquisition team to be able to be technical if they're not technical. They are there to assess suitability, potential, motivation. Your first stage hiring team should be the one that's doing the technical questions, and that's how we run things here at Leyton.
Mm-hmm. And there are a couple of people who asked whether we could share some sample emails you are sending out your candidates. So maybe we can do it after.
I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. What I would say is, for that, you'll see they're quite conversational, right? So I write as if I was writing a personal email to someone, but it's all. So that's kind of how I've written those emails. I've not written them in a sort of real technical speak or cold, unfeeling one sentence. They're like a paragraph of, thank you for applying. We've read through your application. Unfortunately, it doesn't fit, but I'll share it all for you. But what I'd say is there's no sort of magic formula. Just write like a person, because you're a person, and you can set it up to be automated, to be sent out when you move things around on your ATS. But yeah, just that's how I've written them. There's no magic formula. I'm not magic. I just wrote like a human.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we will collect some examples from Sarah and share those examples with all of you who have been here with us today. Thanks again, Sarah. And let's move on to you, Helen. We'll share your screen slides in a second. Here they are. So the floor is yours.
Good, thank you, Sarah. I was doing notes for myself, and I really like this Circle Back initiative that you mentioned. I'm not sure how relative it is for us here in Estonia, for example, but hearing from candidates that most of them don't get any reply, and then hearing from hiring managers and recruiters that everybody gives reply every single time, then I still have a feeling that this is an area we need to focus, at least in an Estonian market. So really love this idea. But I'm gonna jump into the process a little more in terms of recruitment process as such, and why it needs to be a process, and how it helps to actually build the automation for the recruiters, so you wouldn't have to do everything by yourself. Quickly about me, I mentioned a few things, but I'm in HR for over 9 years. I have been working in-house and now in an agency. And I think many of my examples come from best practices seen from my clients, from different industries I've worked with, and so on. And I truly believe that in many cases we have the answers inside of us. So this is my coach side talking, but we often have the answers in ourselves. As you mentioned, Sarah, as well. Go and try to be in the shoes of the candidate. What do you feel? What do you like? Where you struggle? What are the pain points? So this applies here as well. And from my background as well, as some, I think 2 years ago, we could hear, at least in Estonian market, every every news was about either machine learning or artificial intelligence or big data or things like that. So I really wanted to understand where are we, because already 5 or 6 years ago, candidates directly from school asked me, okay, why should I come and work for you as an accountant? There's going to be a robot in few days and they're going to take my job. And still we are going out and headhunting accountants. So where we actually are with this digital transformation and how this can help us. Because as I mentioned, whatever a machine can do, let them do it. So we have more time to actually focus on the candidate and making sure we offer the best candidate solution. And I think some of my examples also come from the overall Estonian HR society. And this is also where I have gathered those best practices, being one of the co-founders of the society and in the management group. But I always take a moment to appreciate my team as well. My team is somewhat on the picture, many of them missing, and because we always wait for another person to join, so we're missing those photography days or picture days. Hopefully in May I will be able to share new pictures, but many of the ideas and best practices also come from working with our clients. We see what they do really well, we see what they don't do that well, where we can see the main pain points and so on. And I can really see from working with our clients, whenever we give in to the client's wish to go with their process, it kind of doesn't bring the same results. And this is where we realize that the clear process is something you really need in order to make sure you have the results. If we talk, you can go next. If we talk about systematic approach, then what we do with our team in SMARTFUL is actually mapping it out. So really understanding how to make the process work for you, because there are so many steps we need to make within the recruitment process. And if you don't have a clear process, it's really easy to simply forget some small steps along the way. And this often happens in the second part of the recruitment, for example, when you have good candidates on the table that you have been looking for several months, and now the client is really happy and so on, and really eager to push forward and get this person hired and working ASAP. So in these cases, it might happen that they tend to like slide over some of the steps within the process that you actually need to make sure that you have complied with all the rules you have made for yourself and for the company. For example, it's an amazing candidate. We simply forget to make a call to the prior employer and ask for reference check or something like that. So going along with the eager hiring manager when you don't have this clear process can be really easy to come. But what we do in SMARTFUL, and this is, I will show later as well a small print screen of it, but what we do in SMARTFUL, we actually map down every single small step in the way. So not only, when I'm doing also recruitment trainings for hiring managers, for recruiters and so on, and what I often see is that the recruitment process is listed down, but it's listed down as 5 steps or 4 steps, or in some cases 3 steps. So this is a process. This means that there is still so many small steps that everybody should assume based on their background and knowledge and so on. And if we start to assume, then things tend to go wrong. So what I really recommend every single time is to go in and look for those every single small steps that you need to make within the process. It's even to go into your ATS, put this little checkbox somewhere, or go to the ATS, mark for yourself down. When did you promise to give feedback to the candidate or get back to them? Things like that. Even to the smallest, make sure to send an email to the hiring manager, giving a brief what's happening or reminding before they go to the interview and so on. So making sure that you have this checklist for yourself, and then also to have this clear timeline for it, because we might know that we want to give feedback after the CV screening round is done. What does it mean after? How can I measure it if it's done after? It can be done after a year. I can still say I'm on it, but actually having a clear timeline, so thinking, when is the last moment I have to be done with this task? So giving yourself a timeline as well. Understanding that in recruitment, there's always many participants in the process, meaning that you might have to be flexible with your timeline as well, but making sure you have one for yourself, so you have some kind of guidance. What do you want to aim for? And the third thing that we do is the fact that once we have the steps listed down, and we even have like sub steps underneath some of the bigger like goals or activities we need to do, then we start heat mapping. And what's the reason for this? We basically use this traffic light color coding, green for all those activities that we know we are doing, and we are always doing them. We know that this is something we master. Then we use this yellow color to color those activities within the process that we know we should be doing. We sometimes, or most cases, do them, but this is not actually really set into our process yet, so we might miss it here and then. So we mark it for ourselves. And then there's these red ones, which we add. So every single time that we have a review for the process, we actually add new things in there as well. And then we mark them with red. We don't do them yet, but we would like to do them. So every single time we go back to the process, we can review, we can color code it based on the actual reality then. So some things that were yellow might be now green. Some things that were green might now be red because we're missing them, or something changed in the process. So this is something that really has helped us to make sure that we are on the same page with the whole team, knowing what we are doing, what we should be doing, and where are those pain points for ourselves, what we want to do better in the future. And if you, Maria, move next, I can, yeah, there's a small print screen as well. Sounds like a really systematic approach. Ours is on a post-it, pretty much. We use Google services, so we have post-it solution, post-its in Google. I think it's Jamboard or something like that. Really simple solution. It was meant as a draft. Works out that it's not a draft. It's a tool that we use really regularly, so it's good that it's adjustable. So what we did, we have those steps of the process. We have those minor steps underneath. You can see some green. We even have this orange here for some steps. This is our secret coding, where we know we need to comply more. But this is something we know ourselves, and this is something we review with every single new recruiter that comes to our house, every single team member, meaning that not only recruiters from our agency are with us when we are reviewing this process, but also our marketing, our sales, and so on. Even our trainers have been in the process who don't recruit, but their like outside perspective might help us see something we are missing. So we do this color coding, and we revisit it really regularly. I think we go through it at least once in 3 months, because you're always smarter today than you were yesterday. So making sure that we use our new knowledge and adjust it based on the actual reality. Sometimes also some processes change. Maybe there's a better way thanks to the software development. We don't need to do some things manual anymore, so we can skip it. We can adjust the process as well. And also about best practices, because, for example, coming here, hearing what Sarah is doing, gathering some ideas, and then going into our process and adjusting also based on that. So to make also sure that everybody knows what the process is, and this is where communication rule is that the more you talk about it, the better, because there's always someone missing some details, but the more you talk about it, you make sure that everybody is on the same page. And when we talk about people on the same page, then this is something I see from hiring managers quite often. They have one version of recruitment process, and actually they're missing many steps along the way. It's like we have a hiring need, then we go to HR, magic happens, and then we have this final selection. So I think this is a really good task to do with your hiring managers as well. Make sure you're all on the same page. And if we move forward, Maria. Thank you. So what actually makes the candidate experience? Just some ideas from my side. I think it's one thing is to have your profile and the description of who you're looking really clear and thorough. So today, as we're doing more and more targeted search, you can't really go and knock on people's door or on LinkedIn saying like, I think you might be the one, not really sure. We're looking for someone. Would you be open to have a discussion? So knowing that they are actually, based on what you know, they actually are the person who might be a fit. Never promising, you don't know if they are this one and only that you're hunting for, but making sure you do your homework. Then also the attitude of the recruiter and hiring manager. So what I often see from client side or from trainings is that recruiters are all those smiley, happy, making sure we get the person in the room for the interview. And then the hiring manager comes in like, okay, what do you want to come? Why should we hire you? Why did you decide to take the time to come for an interview? So if you haven't applied, you really need to have those kind of questions or have those kind of words even. Is it an interview? I haven't applied. So also making sure we have the right attitude based on where the candidate came from. Also the length and the pace of the recruitment process. And here I really think that the longer the process is doesn't always mean that it's a bad experience. It comes down to the expectation management. So if we communicate upfront saying to the candidate, you know, we're going to have a bit longer process than you probably see others doing, but we are doing this for this and this kind of reasons, then I think it's okay. But keeping those small connections with the candidate as you go. The communication quality as well. Is it simply thank you for hanging with us, we will keep you in touch, or actually giving them transparent reasoning why this is taking longer or where they are in the process and so on. Covered expectation management. So simply to make sure that you know what you promised to the candidate. You ask what they expect, then you can actually manage the expectations as well. Having this personal approach, I think this is something that the recruitment tools are making easier and easier every day. And also what we heard from Sarah's presentation was that the competencies of those who are involved in the process overall. So it can be hiring managers, but it can also be secretary who is letting the person in for an interview, making sure that every single one knows their role in the process and knows how they can make or break the experience. And the last one for me, I think it's feedback. We see that this is missing quite often, and I don't mean feedback. I see that in Estonian markets, it's still like, wow, when you send feedback to everybody. But is it a good thing to get the feedback saying like, thank you for applying, but we went another way? Okay, why? What can I do as a candidate? What did I get from this kind of feedback? So actually making sure that they get quality feedback, some kind of tips and tricks and insight, what they could do differently for the next time to be more successful. Because happy to hear it's so also in UK, but in Estonia we have a really small talent pool. So you need to make sure that you have a good candidate experience, because you need to go back to the same people. One day or another, you need to go back. So make sure the candidate experience is good. Quickly, what we have done as if you move. We have done in the 6 months. So we have adjusted our process at least 2 or 3 times within the last 6 months. We have moved from our clients' processes to our own, making sure that we give the same kind of quality to every single recruit process and every single project. We also mapped the additional ways where we could automate. So when we review our process, all the time we also focus on what we could do automatically, where can we reduce our manual work and so on, because the software is also constantly updating. We have also created those really template letters for all kind of scenarios. So thinking of what could happen in this point, it could go that way or that way, and having those base emails for every situation, because there's so many things you need to cover in recruitment for compliance reasons as well. And then you want to get feedback from them and so on. So making sure you divide it into the process, not sending it out with the last email in the end of the process. GDPR compliance, we have moved from it's a simply legal issue to making sure that it's part of candidate experience. So thinking how we can make this as an experience for them instead of just you need to sign somewhere, making sure we can keep your data. And also going through the process over and over and over and over. And this is something that really helps us to see things that we didn't see the last time. My call to action to you to do the same. So have a look at your process, map it down whatever way, and to the smallest steps, and then try to see who is responsible, when it should happen, and is this the pain point, or is this something you can really make the candidate experience with? Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. I have a question to you. You have used RecruitLab with your team for, I think, for almost 2 years already. And today among our participants, there are many who are not or still not using any software or ATS. What would you say, what have been the main benefits using a recruitment software?
Mm-hmm. It helps a lot. It helps to save a lot of time, and it helps to make your process stick. Because if you have a process somewhere in Excel, good, but does Excel send you reminders about you missing something you promised to do? Not really, if you're not really a master in Excel and macros and so on. But software does that for you. It makes sure that you keep your promises that you gave to the hiring managers or the candidates, and it helps to reduce your manual work, because if you map your process, there's maybe 10 ways the process can go. So you can create 10 emails. You don't need to write them every single time. And you can simply put in 2 or 3 sentences that are personalized for this candidate, making sure that you are fit with your process, with GDPR compliance, and giving a good candidate experience. So it really gives you time to focus on the candidate, make more phone calls instead of sending emails, and making sure that you keep connection between the hiring manager and the candidate. So I think gives you more time to actually add value.
Yeah, I agree with you. But thank you, Helen. If participants have any questions, you still have a couple of minutes to add them to the chat. We still have a couple of minutes, and I promise to share some things that, in my opinion, every recruiter should automate, or at least start thinking about it. And the first one is definitely interview scheduling. So we spend a lot of time on scheduling interviews, especially when we are working on high volume projects. So instead of sending multiple emails or calling your candidates back and forth, I would recommend using a scheduling tool. In our case, it's really simple. You just go to RecruitLab, and you can decide whether you would like to schedule a video call or a regular meeting in the office with your candidates. And our customers have given us the feedback that they have actually saved 80% of the time they used to spend on interview scheduling. How it works, you would just write an email to your candidates and add an invitation tag to the email, and then you can pick suitable times from your calendar. You see that the light blue ones are the ones that are already booked in my calendar, and the darker ones are the ones that I am offering to my candidates. Then you can send the invites, and it means that your candidates will receive an email with possible dates and times for the interview. And once they choose or pick the most suitable one, a calendar invite will be automatically sent out to you, to your hiring manager, and also to your candidate. So no need to waste time on manually scheduling. And also you can integrate our tool with Zoom or Teams if you would like to schedule video interviews, or we have also like built-in video tool in the product as well that you can use. Second one, coming back to this systematic approach that both Sarah and Helen mentioned today, I think we need to think about the process before we actually start hiring. And in RecruitLab, we have this kind of very customizable project view, and you can set up your own workflow. So you see here several buttons that are created by me. It's easy. You can do it with just a couple of clicks. And we offer 5 different stage actions or automatic stage actions. You can set up automatic emails. You can send out video messages, video interviews, or you can ping your hiring managers or set up reminders for them, and you can decide how to do it. You can create as many stage actions to one stage as you want. So it is really easily customizable, and to be honest, I couldn't imagine working without it anymore. So if you're already used to this kind of systematic approach, then you don't want to go back to Excel, definitely. And I can guarantee that with this kind of approach, you will definitely improve candidate experience. But because you can be sure that every candidate will get their response as quickly as possible, and you can make sure that all of your candidates are like up to date with the process, and you can keep them informed. Next one, also Sarah mentioned that they started collecting feedback from candidates. We also offer this opportunity. How it works, again, it's a simple email that you can send to your candidates. You just have to add one tag to this email, and it automatically creates or adds this question like, how likely are you to recommend a friend or colleague to apply for a job with us, and this scale from 0 to 10. And you can decide in which stages you would like to ask feedback from your candidates, and RecruitLab will do all the rest. So you don't have to manually like collect information and analyze it. We will analyze it for you using this method, NPS method, and we will show the results on the dashboard view in the project, but also you will see like exactly how this specific candidate, for example, Trine in this case, answered, and what were her comments about the recruitment process. Another thing, Helen mentioned that everything related to GDPR, this is something I will definitely automate, because I haven't met the recruiter who is like really interested in working with the GDPR related things. I think this is the most boring part of recruitment. So again, with RecruitLab, you can automate this, and RecruitLab can help you keep your talent pool like up to date, and you can make sure that everything, all the data you collect and keep in your talent pool is okay, or you have the right to keep this kind of information. And we have actually written about it in more detail in our help center. So I will share the link if you're interested to learn more about this GDPR automation, then feel free to read more about it. Statistics and reporting, I think this is also really crucial part. I think no recruiter should manually create reports today. this is something I remember when I started as a recruiter like 10 years ago. I still remember the feeling I had when I needed to create reports for my managers, the frustration I had, because at the same time I knew that some candidates are waiting for feedback, or I still have to do some kind of interviews, or I need to source for new candidates. And it felt like a waste of time to put those numbers together in Excel. So again, in RecruitLab, you don't have to build those reports, because RecruitLab is keeping all the information for you. Your managers can just log in and they will see all the statistics, and you can make the dashboard view more relevant for your managers as well. You can use your own custom filters, and you will also see the results in a more visual way as well. For example, from which channels or sources your best candidates are coming from, and so on. And the last one, this is something we are going to launch soon, so don't tell anyone yet. But also related to Sarah's and Helen's presentations today, like how to standardize the process and how to also make the assessment process more standardized and systematic. We are launching those candidate scorecards really soon. It means that you as a recruiter, you can add the skills or the questions you would like to assess, and then all your colleagues or team members who are involved in the hiring process can assess the candidates on the scale from 1 to 5, add their comments. You can also check the comments that other team members have given, and it makes the assessment process more convenient. So yeah, that's it from my side. Once again, thank you, Sarah and Helen, for sharing your experience. It seems that Sarah, we have some technical issues with Sarah, but as I mentioned, we will share Sarah's examples, like how to send out those rejection letters. And Helen, once again, thank you for sharing your experience. To others, keep an eye on our LinkedIn channel, because very soon we will announce our next webinar and next guest speakers. So hope to see you next time as well. So enjoy your day, and see you next time.
Thank you, Maria. Bye.